Welcome to National Action Network Saturday Action Rally. We're coming to you live on WLIB 1190 AM in New York. We're streaming to you across the country on a number of platforms, including Facebook and nationalactionnetwork.net. We are live right here in the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street. Call somebody. Tell them the action is on the air. The Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton is in the house and getting ready to come to you. We're so pleased that you're with us on this Saturday morning, because when you hear the cry of no justice, no peace, you know this is where the action is. Our president and founder is the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton. Chairman of our board is the Reverend Dr. W. Franklin Richardson, senior pastor of Grace Baptist Church in Mount Vernon, New York. Attorney Michael Hardy will be with you throughout the broadcast this morning. We are so pleased to have with us today for our inspirational word segment the Reverend Dr. A. Alfred Carson. He's the presiding elder of the New York City District of the AME Zion Church. We also know it's Saturday, and so our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson, is in the house, and Katrina Jefferson, coordinator of all things here at the House of Justice, and the special liaison to Reverend Al Sharpton, will be here to ask you what's on your mind. That's right. She wants to know what you're thinking about, whether you are part of the Commonwealth and saving your king, or other things are going on in your life. She wants to know what's on your mind. So you want to call somebody. You want to tell them the action is on the air. The Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton is in the house and getting ready to come to you. Brothers and sisters, we always remind you that the NAN Youth Huddle will meet on Monday, May 8th at 6 p.m. Please spread the word and get into the action with our youngest and brightest dreamers of today and leaders of tomorrow. For more information on the Youth Huddle experience, you can call 877-626-4651 or email nan@youthhuddle@gmail.com. Today is Saturday. Today at 5 p.m. You want to make sure that you're tuning in to MSNBC's Politics Nation. Today, Saturday, 5 p.m. and tomorrow, Sunday, 5 p.m. You want to make sure that you're tuning in to MSNBC's Politics Nation with Al Sharpton. Today, Saturday, 5 p.m. Tomorrow, Sunday, 5 p.m. Tune in to MSNBC's Politics Nation. Dr. Alvin Ponders, Vice President of New York City Chapter, is going to come and give you some additional information. Let's welcome him.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good morning, brothers and sisters, friends and neighbors, and thank you for tuning in to another Saturday Action Rally with the National Action Network. Here is some information to keep you in the know. All roads lead to Washington, D.C. On the 60th anniversary of the historic March on Washington, the National Action Network and the Drum Major Institute will sponsor the continuation march on Washington on August 26, 2023. Civil rights leaders, elected officials, clergy, and members of the public will gather at 11 o'clock a.m. in front of the Lincoln Memorial as we not only commemorate the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his historic dream, but vow to continue the fight for equality and justice. The March on Washington will focus on protecting and preserving voter rights, which are under threat across the nation. Criminal justice reform, including police reform, mass incarceration, and calling for federal hate crime legislation to protect communities amid a rise in domestic terrorism and hate crimes. NAN is providing free buses to Washington, D.C. from various locations. For more information and to sign up, please visit www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Tyree Nichols' tragic autopsy. Tyree Nichols, the 29-year-old who was viciously beaten by Memphis police officers in January and died from blunt force trauma to the head, according to an official autopsy report which was released this week. The West Tennessee Regional Forensic Center released the report, which also ruled Tyree's death a homicide. Reverend Sharpton delivered a moving eulogy at Tyree's funeral where he called for justice, he called for police reform, he called for accountability. He poignantly asked, quote, "In a city where they slayed the dreamer, what has happened to the dream?" Vice President Kamala Harris also attended the funeral and said that the entire nation mourns with the family. In April, Tyree's parents were at the National Action Network's annual convention in New York City to share their fight for justice for their son and the larger push for change. This latest autopsy further confirms what the family and Nan has been saying from the beginning and why they push so adamantly for accountability for Tyree's horrific death. Nan vows to continue to stand with the family till the end. Justice for Jordan Neely. Reverend Sharpton and Nan have spoken out publicly on several occasions demanding answers on the chokehold death of Jordan Neely. He was only 30 years old and experiencing homelessness when a former Marine placed him in a chokehold, killing the young man. He was known to many as an avid Michael Jackson impersonator and a frequent entertainer on New York City's subways. His life was viciously cut short this week on one of those subways. Disturbing video footage captured another train passenger placing Neely in a chokehold for an extended period of time. This individual was merely interviewed by police and then released. Meanwhile, Neely is dead. This is vigilantism at its worst and cannot be tolerated in New York City or elsewhere. The horrendous incident harkens back, remember, to 1984 Bernard Goetz case, where a white gunman shot 4 black men on the subway, as well as the 2014 police killing of Eric Garner, who was also placed in a chokehold as he gasped, "I can't breathe." Reverend Sharpton was closely involved in both incidents, demanding justice and accountability. He is once again calling for the same in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely. As he stated earlier this week, we cannot go back to a place where vigilantism is tolerable. It wasn't acceptable then, and it can't be acceptable now. We cannot sanction vigilantism in the city or anywhere else. Welcome to all of you who have tuned in and join us also via live stream at www.nationalactionnetwork.net and also live on the National Action Network on Facebook. If this is your first time joining us, or if you're not a member of NAN, we welcome you to NAN and invite you to join us and get into the action today. For more information and to join, you may visit again www.nationalactionnetwork.net or just call 877-626-4651. Again, that number is 877-626-4651, or just text the word NAN to 59769. Welcome.
All right, thank you, Dr. Ponda. Katrina Jefferson, HOJ Manager, Liaison to Reverend Sharpton, Coordinator of all things here at National Action Network, wants to know what's on your mind. Good morning, Katrina.
Oh, good morning, Attorney Hardy, and good morning to each and every one of you who are here live here at the House of Justice, to those that are watching by way of live streaming on our Facebook page and on our website, www.nationalactionnetwork.net, and to those that are listening by way of WLIB 1190 AM. Welcome to another weekend's conversation of What's on Your Mind, where you in the community have the opportunity to interact with us here at the National Action Network 24 hours a day by emailing us at whatsonyourmind@nationalactionnetwork.net. Again, that email address is whatsonyourmind@nationalactionnetwork.net, or you may call us at 877-626-4651, or you can join us here live. Now, someone told me this morning that one of our seasoned mothers had something to share, and so I'm going to honor her by going to her first. Good morning. Give us your name, dear mother. Let the people know where you're from and share with us what's on your mind today.
Good morning, Nance. My name is Ivy, Mother Ivy Walton, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York. And I just want you guys to know what's on my mind, and especially after what Mike just said about Rev is fighting for this homeless man. Let me let you guys know, we as Camellia Yarbird said, we are a family, whether it's houseless or in the house. So that's what Mother wants you guys to know. Remember, Nan is your home. We are family. Okay, that's what's on my mind.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, Mother. Good morning. Give us your name, let us know where you're from, and briefly share with us what's on your mind.
Good morning. I'm from the Bronx of New York, and my name is Sandra Henson. And even with the young man asking for money, I used to take the train to work, and even though people looked at me and I gave $1 or 50 cents, they thanked me. You know, for Reverend Al Sharpton reaching out, or they reaching out, and his logo, no justice, no peace, we need to march on them and shut them down.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you all were here, a couple of weeks ago we shared a story where the people saw an injustice happening and they surrounded the police officer and the gentleman and started yelling, no justice, no peace, George Floyd, no justice, no peace, George Floyd, Reverend Al Sharpton, George Floyd, Reverend Al Sharpton, George Floyd. And that echo, the sound of that echo alone is what stopped that officer in his track from committing an injustice. And so I encourage you all to give that some thought. If you are ever anywhere, not just here in New York City, but anywhere around this country, that one act alone you can do and doesn't require any kind of physical activity or putting yourself in harm's way, but using your voice as a tool to impact change. All right, good morning. Give us your name. Let us know where you are from, my sister, and share with us what's on your mind.
Good morning. I'm Brenda Ricketts from Yonkers. What's on my mind is the CDC and the World Health Organization have declared COVID no longer a pandemic and removed the emergency status. Do not be fooled. COVID is still with us. These are the descendants of the people who declared that blacks are inferior and deserve to be enslaved. Take what they say with a grain of salt and keep your eyes open. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Good morning. Give us your name. Let us know where you are from and briefly share with us what's on your mind.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Merlene Lawrence. I am the mother of Bernard Placide, who was killed by September 3rd by 3 police officers in Englewood. I just want you to know, I know this Sunday is Mother's Day. I know that Sunday is going to be my son's birthday. He's going to turn 22, but we want to remember his birthday. We're going to Washington Memorial Park at 234 in Paramus Road in Paramus, New Jersey, to honor him, to show him some respect for his birthday, and we'd like to invite everyone who wants to come to support the family. Thank you so much. No justice, no peace.
Yes, and we will have flyers for that as well. So if you're here in the house and you want to attend, we'll make sure to get flyers printed out on the counter. If you're not here, you're watching and you want to be a part and support the family, you can call us at 877-626-4651, and we'll make sure to get that information to you as well. Thank you so much for sharing. Good morning. Give us your name. Let us know where you're from and share with us what's on your mind.
Good day, everybody, and God bless everybody. My name is Sister Reverend Word. I'm from Heaven Born in Harlem. I'm a National Action Network lifetime member. Of course, what's on my mind is Bible scriptures. In particular, Christ Jesus has always shown us that we're entitled to freedom. In any way possible, we must work toward that. So on May 3rd, I participated in a rally with countless other NAM members and other members from other organizations, including students, in front of the College Board, which is solely responsible for acknowledging their responsibility to give us the highest education possible and not be partial to whomever is stressing them out about now dumbing down the curriculum. We must constantly acknowledge that education for freedom includes peacefully demonstrating that we're entitled to know what we need to know to be effective, peaceful people in this society. God bless you. Good day.
Thank you so much for sharing. Good morning. Give us your name. Let us know. Let the people know where you're from and share with us what's on your mind.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm from Brooklyn. What is that? What's on my mind was when I went to the Reverend convention last month, that troubled this woman from Guyana. She was on the panel, and she said the cops came in the room and shot the fellow in the back. He was with his wife laying down asleep, and he came in and shot him. And the kids was there also. I'd like to know, there's something to know about that. One of the panels was up front then. Now, there's another thing I want to know also what's on my mind. How come they're not building senior citizen apartments, okay? And why is they building these skylights and nobody's not saying nothing? Now, what I can't understand, the police department have, how you call that? No, inside the police, the units. Everybody have a unit. So if somebody does wrong, you're supposed to get them right then and there when they do something wrong. Not keep going, because a lot of Afro-American Spanish been killed and nobody's not doing the darn thing. And where's these legislators about all of this and about all the senior citizen apartment? And this is the last I'm going to say. And seniors did their work. They should not go by their income. They forgot back there in the 60s when I was young, they was robbing them up, taking their checks, canceling them and everything, food stamps. But what I can understand, they gave him as a blessing. They gave him direct deposit where they didn't have to come out if it's rain and whatnot. Second,
You got to wrap it up, Mother.
Second, they built senior citizens apartment. They didn't go by no income. People, you got to wake up and focus on the news and what they're saying. Watch MSNBC. Sometimes I watch CNN and News One. They tell you everything. Pay attention.
Yes, pay attention. And if you are a senior in need of support, regardless of where you live, you can always call us here at 877-626-4651. We have a robust crisis team and really resource team, we should call it, because some people aren't necessarily in crisis. They just need assistance with something to provide assistance to you. So senior citizens, you are never alone, regardless of where your family members may reside. You always have family here at National Action Network. All right. Closing us out this morning, good morning. Give us your name. Let us know where you are from and share with us what's on your mind.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jay Spencer Hilaire, and I live in Brooklyn. I am speaking on behalf of the Health and Wellness Committee of the NYC chapter. Dr. Alvin Ponder is the chairperson. African Americans are twice as likely to be affected by Alzheimer's disease. Today, May 6th, Harlem residents are invited to take part in a community forum on Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, sponsored by NYU Langone and Columbia University, at Rev. Al Sharpton's National Action Network's headquarters here in the House of Justice, located at 106 145th Street, New York, New York, from 12 noon to 1:30 p.m. The featured speaker is the Alzheimer's disease specialist, Dr. Omanigo M. Bubu, an assistant professor and physician scientist at Great New York Grossman School of Medicine. Please join us.
Yes, thank you so much, Sister J. And we are going to close it out this month. If you did not know, is Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month. And just having a child 16 months ago, I can testify that I struggled tremendously with postpartum depression, anxiety, and I still have therapy going today. So if you are a mother out there, if you know someone who recently had a child, please, and they are in need of support, please get them in contact with us here at the National Action Network. We have a tremendous amount of mental health resources for those who do need assistance. Trust me, therapy for y'all seasoned saints is not a bad thing, right? We know that everything is not resolved at the altar, but God has also given us wisdom to reach out further than that when we need support on the other side as well. I'm a PK, born and raised in the church, but I had a child and I needed help. My family was across the country, right? And so I reached out and I got the help and the resources and the support that I needed. And so I challenge you all, look around you. If there are mothers, young mothers, seasoned mothers, regardless of where they may be at on the spectrum, as it is Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month, please reach out to them. And if you find out that they need help, give us a call here at the National Action Network, 877-626-4651. It would be our absolute pleasure and honor to connect your loved ones with the resources that they need, including connecting them to a church home, if that is a need also. God bless you all. And that concludes this weekend's conversation of What's on Your Mind. Keep in mind, everything you heard here was simply the thoughts and the viewpoints of the contributors and do not reflect those of the National Action Network directly. And you can interact with us 24, yes, I said 24 hours a day by either emailing us at whatsonyourmind@nationalactionnetwork.net. Again, that email address is whatsonyourmind@nationalactionnetwork.net. Or you may call us at 877-626-4651. We would love to hear from you. Back to you, Attorney Hardy.
All right. Thank you, Katrina Jefferson, for this week's What's on Your Mind. Right now, brothers and sisters, the Nan Change Choir soloist, Tisha Hunter.
Good morning, Nan. Amen. Oh, you brought me through this. Hey, come on, clap your hands. You brought me through.
You brought me through.
Tisha Hunter, our
in it. Every week in the life of the National Action Network is always a very busy, action-packed week. While others are sleeping, the National Action Network is constantly working for liberation for our people at pavement level. This past Wednesday, members of the New York City chapter journeyed downtown to support the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Al Sharpton, who spoke at a rally termed and named the Freedom to Learn Rally. Also at that rally, and if you were there or if you are aware of that rally, put your hands together. It was a wonderful, wonderful rally. 100 of them happened around the country. Perhaps the best one happened right here in New York City. Of course, the Reverend Al Sharpton was speaking. But towering among the speakers was a young brother that impressed our president and founder. This young brother is 19 years old, student at Howard University, and undoubtedly an emerging spokesperson and leader and activist. He is currently the president of the Young People's Division of the New York State Conference of the NAACP, and Reverend thought it would be great if this young brother would come and give his assessment of the Freedom to Learn rally. Will you put your hands together as we welcome here to the podium Brother Miles Hollingsworth. Let's show him some love as he comes.
Good morning, Nan family. How are you? Good morning. Thanks be to God. Thank you so much for that warm welcome, Reverend Byrd, and thank you to the National Action Network, the House of Justice, its members, and of course, its founder and president, Reverend Al Sharpton, and family. I am Miles Hollingsworth, as aforementioned. I have the great honor of serving as president of the NAACP New York State Conference Youth and College Division. A part of my presidency there, I get to engage with dozens of chapters of young people ranging from anywhere between 0 and 25 years old across New York State. And a part of that responsibility is about learning, and learning about our people, our culture. I am more than honored to be attending Howard University, the mecca of HBCUs, studying political science pre-law. Why? Because Black studies matter. That was a conversation that has been in my family for generations, and it will be in my family for generations. And so because I have that favor, and because I have that honor of being at Howard University, the fight for freedom to learn and the fight for Black education is personal to me. And it's personal to me that I deliver that for generations after me. I have a young sister and a young brother. You guys all have grandchildren, daughters, nieces, and nephews who will grow up and need to know and need to understand why the color of their skin matters in a society like this. So today I stand before you to not only shed light on the rally, which Reverend Byrd was in presence at, and with our founder, Reverend Al Sharpton, but also to discuss why young people are at the forefront and need to be at the forefront of this conversation. I'd be remiss if I didn't also honor our brothers Falivi and Usman from the Youth and College Division of National Action Network, shout them out. But I want to let you know that Black people and individuals of African descent in our nation are responsible for the beauty, the excellence, and delivery that the United States has. We need a round of applause for that. Because without Black people, where would the United States be? Let's be very clear. To claim oneself educated on American history is to claim knowledge on Black history. However, there's a glaring discrepancy between what we should know and what is being taught. The College Board, the organization entrusted with shaping our understanding of academia, is failing us in this regard. Let's be clear. Let's be more than clear. This failure stems from their alarming willingness to conform to Florida's anti-democratic and anti-black policies, all in the name of ensuring the course best reflects this dynamic discipline. But this approach is deeply troubling. For society to thrive and actively participate in democracy, education must serve as a trusted backbone. Sadly, again, this is not what we are witnessing today. The College Board takes cues and should take cues from the NAACP, National Action Network, African American Policy Forum, and other organizations who also stood in solidarity with us on that rally day. They should reject the narrow interpretations of Florida law that contradict the principles of academic freedom and autonomy. Students' learning environment should be respected, and excellence in academia should be pursued. It is time for the College Board to align itself with these ideals that our nation holds dear. The attacks on African American studies, on CRT, are rooted, and let's also be clear about this, in a deeply, deeply racist education. Chattel slavery denied enslaved Africans, our ancestors, the right to most curriculum and language that was being taught at the time. Jim Crow laws forced segregation, denying black children the educational opportunities that were being afforded to their white counterparts. Let's be clear on that. It was through the collective efforts of the NAACP, organizations like NAN, and figures like Thurgood Marshall that led to the fight and activists that have bred in the black community like this, that led to what we all know as Brown versus Board of Education. However, Florida officials have taken a new approach to dismantle such institutions and the law like Brown v. Board upholds. And because of that, black internationality, black feminism, black queer studies are becoming removed from the classrooms, and that's not something we can stand for. The omission of these vital points from the curriculum of AP Afro Studies is a failure on the part of the College Board, and it only strengthens the argument that the College Board is intaking information from Florida officials. How is it that only a week or so prior to the Florida officials announcing their plans around banning CRT and AP African American Studies, that the College Board all of a sudden has these new manufactured revisions for its course? Let's be very clear, that is not okay. It is an injustice to black studies, and it is an injustice to black education. We also must recognize that this injustice is not trivial. It wages a war on our ability to think critically, engage with one another, and lead using the power of education, something Howard University upholds. Now, more than ever, it is crucial for Gen Z and folks ever and all across the country to be able to stand up for their own education so we can have a future where our studies are upheld. Books like this one, which I brought to show all of you guys, Critical Race Theory, books by Toni Morrison, books by Bell Hooks, those are being removed from our children's classroom. So like our founder, Reverend Al Sharpton, speaks to, like our leaders speak to, without justice, there will be no peace. And education justice is a part of our peace. Amen.
Let's show them some love. I would like to invite Brother Nolan Farrell and Reverend Keith Gadsden to come to stand with me for this very, very brief announcement. Let's show these brothers some love as they come. You have heard our president and founder, the Reverend Al Sharpton, indicate that we are going to Queens. And let me tell you why we're going to Queens. On May 22nd at 11 a.m., we are assembling in front of the Queens DA's office, in front of Melinda Katz's office, to demand the exoneration of the Nolan Farrell and the Reverend Keith Gadsden. They have failed to reintroduce new data that would exonerate these brothers. They refuse to acknowledge their own part in these brothers having receiving a lack of due process and a fair and impartial trial. And since they refuse to acknowledge it, guess what the National Action Network is going to do? We're going to go out there and make some noise and demand that these brothers receive their fair, just due. If you're going to join us on May 23rd at 11 a.m., put your hands together. More information will be coming. No justice. No justice. No justice.
All right, thank you, Reverend Byrd, and the guests for In the House. Right now, our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson.
Well, you've been running for a long time. Time is winding up. You better make up your mind. It's getting late in the evening. The sun is going down. You better get it right, Why he made me found? I want to know, where do you stand? Who's on the Lord's side? Who's on the Lord's side? I want to know where. Who's on the Lord's side? Who's on the Lord's side? I want to know where. Do you stand? Who's on the Lord's side? Who's on the Lord's side? I'm on the Lord's side. I'm on the Lord's side. You gotta work while the day, for the night is coming, and you can't find your way. Oh, sinner, I wonder, what will you do? You better choose this day, because tomorrow not promised to you. I wanna know, where do you stand? Who's on the Lord's side? Who's on the Lord's side? I wanna know, where do you stand? Who's on the Lord's side? Who's on the Lord's side? I wanna know, where do you stand? Who's on the Lord's side? Who's on the Lord's side? I'm on the Lord's side. I'm on the Lord's side. Get up if you're on the Lord's side. Get up if you're on the Lord's side. Get up. Get up if you're on the Lord. If you're on the Lord's side. Come on and get up. Hey, if you're on the Lord. If you're on the Lord's side. Come on and get up. Hey, if you're on the Lord's side. If you're on the Lord's side. Come on and get up. Hey, if you're on the Lord. Get up. 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 If God been good, if you know He brought you through, come on and come on and come on and get up. Get up. Get up. Hey, I'm on. I'm on. One more time. The Lord.
That is our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson. Brothers and sisters, it is our honor and privilege today to have with us for our inspirational word segment the Reverend Dr. A. Alfred Carson, presiding elder of the New York City District of the AME Zion Church. Let's give him a National Action Network welcome.
To God be praised. To giving God the highest praise, thanks, and admiration, who is the head of my life, to the founder and president of the National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton, to the Reverend Dr. W. Franklin Richardson, who is the chairman of the board. And I just want to pause. Can we just celebrate these two men? I tell you, can we just celebrate them? I just thank God for them because they champion our causes even when we may not have enough sense to do it ourselves. So thank you, Dr. Sharpton, for representing us in every way. I also want to give a shout out to my friend and brother, Reverend Malcolm Byrd. Let's give him a hand. As well as Reverend Marshall. Let's give him a hand. Turn with me, if you will, to the book of Jeremiah, 29th chapter and the 11th verse. For surely I know the plans that I have for you, saith the Lord. Plans for your welfare, not for your harm. Plans that will enrich your life, to give to you a future with hope. And I just want to speak to you on the subject today, hope in the midst of hopelessness. Hope in the midst of hopelessness. I don't know about you, but maybe I was just simply naive to think after the death of George Floyd that the number of police shootings and killings, especially among our people, would have gone down. After all of the protests, the outpouring of anger and sadness, which was across this land and across this world, I thought the numbers would have gone down. But in actuality, as you know, the numbers have gone up. Not only are we being killed by the police, but if you just go to the next door and ring the wrong doorbell, or if your basketball suddenly goes across into another neighbor's yard, even if you're having a bad day emotionally on the subway, you are subject to get killed here in New York City. Hopelessness is all around us. But I come today to tell you that there is hope in the midst of hopelessness. Because somebody said that the nighttime, that the darkest hour is always before the dawn. There is hope. And in this book, this chapter of Jeremiah, Jeremiah writes this letter to the people who are exiled in Babylon, those who have been captive and taken away, those who have been stripped of their culture, stripped of their identity. Jeremiah writes to them and says, just hold on, just a little while longer. And he says to them that God has a plan for you. God has a promise for you. And God's gonna bring you out with his power. I have hope today because God has a plan. It was never God's intention to leave the people of Israel in Babylon. It was his intention to lift them up out of their despair and bring them back to Jerusalem. And I don't know who I'm talking to today, but you need to know God's not gonna leave us here. You need to tell your neighbor, God's not gonna leave us here in despair. God's not gonna leave us here in the dungeons of hatred. God's not gonna leave us here in the despair and the sea of racism, because God has a plan to take his people back and to liberate us. And intertwined with his plan, God has a promise. I have hope today because I'm standing on the promises of God. How many of you know you're standing on the promises of God? That God keeps his promise. Lo, I am with you always, even until the end of time. God keeps his promise. I'll never leave you, neither will I forsake you. Promise made, promise kept. If my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven, heal their land, and forgive their sin. Promise made, promise kept. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Promise made, promise kept. God keeps his promise. And I have hope today, not only because of God's plan, not only because of his promise, but God has power. His power will liberate us. We don't have the strength to do it by ourselves. We don't have the intellect to do it by ourselves, but God has power. Somebody says power, his wonder-working power. He has power to scoop up and to shut down. He has power to set us free. I have hope today, and my hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame. Oh, wholly lean on Jesus' name. On Christ, the solid rock I stand. All of the grounds are sinking sand. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
We want to thank the Reverend Dr. A. Alfred Carson, presiding elder, New York City District, AME Zion Church, the Change Choir.
Your
That is our change choir. Brothers and sisters, I want you to get on your feet right now for the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton.
No justice. No justice. No justice. No justice. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? 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 Fist bump the person next to you. Tell them you love them. Many of us look at the situations that we're born in and think that we must remain in those situations. But every life is a challenge to start somewhere and go elsewhere. Nobody is born and destined to stay other than where they try and where they really surrender themselves to stay. So you listening to us on radio and watching us on television, let me tell you that nobody's going to change your life for you but you. Nobody going to come save you from your situation but you. But if you stand up and believe and hold on, your change will come.
Your change will come. Your change. Just hang on in there. Your change will come. Your change. Oh, change will. Oh, change will.
I remember when in 1988, when my mentor, Reverend Jesse Jackson, ran for president, and many of us felt it was unfair how they were castigating him and calling him names. Bishop Herbert Daughtry is here this morning, stand behind me. Remember the mayor of New York, Ed Koch, had said that a Jew would be crazy to vote for Jesse. They did everything they could to block him, but he got millions of votes anyhow. And he came out with a theme that I just believe somehow that Dr. Alfred Carson heard. He came out saying, keep hope alive. And that's all Carson was trying to tell you. Yes, they're beating us back. Yes, they're shooting us down. They're even choking us on subways. But if you keep hope alive, your change will come.
Your change will come. Your change. Do you believe it? Your change. Oh, yes, it will. Your change. Oh, change will. Oh, change will. Oh, your change will come. Your change. Just hang on in there. Your change. I know it will. Your change. Ah, woo-hoo. Your change. Yes, it will. Your change. Oh, change will. Oh, change will.
National Action Network Change Choir, give them a big hand. Give them a big hand. Certainly we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally. For you that are here live at the House of Justice, 145th Street and Lenox Avenue, and for you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York and watching us on various media platforms, we're happy to be with you another Saturday to give our report on where the action is. Give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy. Our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson. Give Chris, our drummer, and our guitar player some. And certainly we honored, give a hand, we honored every time we are blessed with the presence of Bishop Herb Daughtry in the house. Certainly, Bishop Daughtry, who's in his 90s, and still up here shadow boxing and jumping up and down. And we are always glad to see him. Some of y'all talk about Black history. Herb Daughtry is walking Black history. Let me also thank our inspirational speaker, Reverend Dr. A. Alfred Carson. And Dr. Carson is the presiding elder of the New York City district of the AME Zion Church. And you can see why from how he preached. He really spoke well and needed words this morning. You can see why he is the presiding elder. Some presiding elders don't know how to preside. But he know how to preside. Give presiding elder Carson a hand. Also, I'm very happy, as was recounted. Thank you, Reverend Malcolm Byrd. Give Byrd a hand. As he got us ready for this first rally, among others, that for Brother Gatson and Nolan, that he brought about a report on this week. I want to thank you that joined us down in front of the College Board around this issue of banning books. We had said, one of the things about having an ongoing organization is you can deal with different issues at the same time. That's right. You know, some folks, I keep telling y'all, these pop-up activists can't handle but one pop-up at a time. We were able to deal with supporting and being with Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw. She is the one that conceptualized what has become known as intersectionality. And I had her on my MSNBC show. We've been working with her and scholars across the country. And the scholars are being banned. It's starting in Florida with DeSantis, but it's not ending there. What you need to understand is they always try a local model to see what would work, and once it works, they go national with it. And they align, talking about we're taking critical race theory out. They're taking anything that deals with the history of our struggle. They want to talk about what they want to project. And let me tell you, they're not, let me explain something to you that a lot of us get mixed up. They're not trying to just exclude black history so blacks won't know their history. They're excluding black history so their children won't know their history. You know, a lot of us think it's about us. That they don't want us to know who we are. No, they don't want their children to know what they've done. And without black history being taught, without all children being exposed to all history, women, LGBTQ, all of that, let it all be taught. You will not have rounded children understanding the society that they're in. So they will think, this week the unemployment numbers came out, Dr. Carson. They're down to 3.4%, which is great. Blacks down to 4.7, still unequal, but it's the lowest we ever been. Well, why is blacks always almost double whites? It's because of an institutional history. But if you don't have the history, you think there was just something wrong with us. So in order for white children to be properly educated, they need to know the history. So I was telling them when we had the march in Tallahassee, Florida, about 2 months ago, welcome our Impact TV family joining us all over the country. When we had the march in Tallahassee with Reverend Holmes, our Tallahassee chapter leader, and others leading, and I joined Bishop McKissick. One guy said to me, well, I appreciate you flying in and your organization's chapter doing this, fighting for black kids. White fella saw me at the airport. I said, no, I'm fighting for your kids. Because I don't want your kids to grow up lopsided because you would not balance their education. So I'm glad and proud of you that went down and stood with us and Dr. Crenshaw, and we got to keep doing that. And I was so impressed and glad to hear Brother Miles Hollingsworth. Give Miles another hand. Come on, give Miles Hollingsworth a hand. And I'm glad as we see young leaders coming on, we've got to encourage them and push them. I remember when I was a kid, Bishop Washington pushed me. A lot of folk in the church were little boy preaching. I was 4 or 5 years old. Why y'all got him up? But had they stopped me, I would have maybe gone another way. And I like how he got up and gave a shout out to the youth in Nan. So that, see, if we can grow generations where we're not competing, but cooperating, it's all one struggle. And I'm glad whether it's Huddle and NAN or Youth in College and NAACP, we all fighting together, and I'm very proud that Miles will come and be with us this morning. A couple of things I want to cover before I go into my message is that one, in Shelby County, Tennessee, the official coroner's report comes back saying that Brother Nichols, Tyree Nichols, who we are standing with his family, they were at our national convention just 3 weeks ago here in New York, and they've confirmed that he died of a blunt instrument. When we saw the video and talked to the father and mother and got involved in that case with Attorney Ben Crump, I ended up doing the eulogy at the funeral and had Vice President Harris there. One of the things that was most disheartening is that you just see police literally beat a man to death on video. And they asked me when I got to Memphis, do I feel like funny because it's black cops? I said, yeah, it's worse. Because we had to fight to get blacks on the force, which is why we've got to fight to make sure that they face the law like anybody else. The audacity of you to think we would fight to get doors open for you, and you go through those doors and act with the same contempt and disregard for human life as others. We're going to be with that family. We're going to be at that courthouse for their trial. We're going to be in the streets marching in Memphis until we get justice for Tyree Nichols. In that same light, things that just happened. I told Reverend Daughtry that I was built funny. My whole biological structure is a little strange. I have my nose out here, mouth here, and then my brain back here, which means sometimes I can smell stuff before I can taste it and before I understand what it is. I was a little boy, mother used to put food on the table, and we had a bad habit. She always slapped my wrist. I'd smell the food before I would put it in my mouth. Then I'd taste it. Then I said, oh, this in my brain, this is all right. Well, the same thing happened to me this week when I saw this videotape of Jordan Neely. Young man choked to death on the subway. Now, I know some folks want to wait and see every I dotted and T crossed and say that he had a background, he'd been arrested, he was homeless, he was this. None of that was known to the man choking him. This man did not have his bio on his back. This man had a mental issue. And the way you handle that is not to put him in a chokehold and squeeze the life out of him. A mental issue on a train is not to be sentenced with death. And I talked to the DA's office I say, I know y'all got to do an investigation, do what you got to do. I'm not attacking nobody, but I'm saying that this man needs to be prosecuted. Because what you will do if you do not prosecute him, in my judgment, is you will set a standard of vigilantism that we cannot tolerate. The precedent alone is a threat to all of us. In 1984, I want to get this right. Now I'm going to connect dots. 1984, I had just come home from being the head of community affairs for Michael Jackson's Victory Tour. We had jumped on some of the big artists saying, y'all don't do enough in the black community, you don't use black promoters. Michael said, I'll use some, but you got to do the tour and be over community affairs. So I did 32 cities with Michael. Just got home, felt all proud of myself, and a guy about a month later shot 4 guys on the train. His name was Bernard Getz. Whole city started rallying around Bernard Getz, the subway gunman, and saying that he was fighting crime. They had TV shows about fighting crime. But a few of us said, wait a minute, how does he get the right to become the judge, juror, and executioner? And ironically, all these years later, what is it, 84 to 2003, 39 years later. Is that the right math? Y'all didn't think I could count. 39 years later, 2 of the same people that marched saying, go get Getz, prosecute Getz, and we were castigated for it. 2 of the same people, Herb Daughtry and Al Sharpton, is here saying, just like we said, go get the subway gunman, we're saying, go get the subway choker. He does not have the right to set a precedent that will make it wherever you want to do, you can do. You become the judge and the jury and the executioner. And I love how Dr. Carson tied it in. In one place is, guy ring the bell, and you suspect he's a criminal. Stand your ground, you shoot and kill him. Another one, a lady pulls up in a driveway, you shoot and kill her. New York, it's you get on the subway and you have a mental problem and you choke them to death. We cannot allow this lawlessness to go unchecked. So I've asked, and I've seen the DA and them are looking at it. One of the things that I've raised, I've not talked direct to the DA, but I've talked to his office. Because I don't want them to say he's doing something because I asked him to do it. I want him to do it because it's the law. But not only do I want them to go at the subway choker, I want to understand what was the right of those 2 men to hold this man down. See, fun thing about me, I saw the whole video. I'm looking at the video. You got one man choking and the other holding him down. They all need to be in front of a grand jury. And then, where are all the people in the car, the train, that felt no kind of way about hearing a young man being choked for minutes This cannot be allowed to go without the community standing. People say, well, the homeless folk are fighting. Yes, and the civil rights folk need to join the homeless folks and stand with this family demanding justice, and all people need to be investigated. Now, it also hit me personally because it brings two things in mind. It brought me to the Getz subway gunman case, subway vigilante. And it brought me all the way to what we've been dealing with here now, the Eric Garner case of chokeholds. It's a fusion of both cases. We fought and was able to get a state law called the Eric Garner no chokehold law for police. Now we need to have an anti-chokehold law, period. And then it got me because they said that this young man, despite whatever issues he had, was an impersonator of Michael Jackson. And y'all know how close Michael and I were. Michael been here to the House of Justice. I preached Michael's funeral. So all of that, I wanted to speak out from that perspective. But let me also say that the danger of this is that everybody will have a license to do whatever they want to do. And everybody ride the subway know you got people on the subway that do things that disturb you. We done had people do all kind of stuff on the subway. You have people get on the subway and urinate. You don't choke them to death, and you're not going to choke this young man to death and let us not stand up and raise our voice. Their family has attorneys, and we're going to support whatever their attorneys say. But from a civil rights point of view, I'm saying, I ain't saying this for the lawyers of the family. In fact, the two lawyers will be on my MSNBC show today at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Speak for themselves. And we appreciate them coming on that platform, 5 p.m. MSNBC. I'm speaking for National Action Network. We're petitioning that the choker, the subway choker, and the two folk helping him all be brought in front of the grand jury. Let me say this. I know we're on our national show, but I want to give a couple of minutes. I see my local New York public advocate. Y'all may not know around the country what a public advocate is, but it's the second highest office in the city of New York. And he's a NAN member, and he snuck in the side. And that's all right, I'm going to put him on stage when I raise the offering. Let us hear some words from our public advocate, Jamani Williams.
Peace and blessing, love and light, Nan. Thank you so much, Reverend Sharpton. You know, anytime something happens, I got to come out to Nan. I almost came out when the Knicks made it out the first round, but I said. But it is really important to be here. And I first always want to start off, I have to start off by saying, I said this before, we have to be careful about making sure we say just having black persons elevate into positions of power shouldn't be confused with black people doing better. And it's really important to say that because what that could look like is, as the Reverend said, an all-black police force killing a man in Memphis. What it could look like, because we have more melanated leadership in this city and state than we've ever had, but we had 200,000 black people leave this state and city at the same time as we elevated. Last year, we had more homeless people die on the streets of New York City than ever before. And now we have a black man who was homeless killed and no one was even arrested. So I don't want to confuse black persons being in power like myself with black people necessarily doing better. His name was Jordan Neely, not just a homeless man. And his name was Daniel Penny, not a Marine. we have to be clear about how they're identifying these folks. I don't know what was on Daniel Penny's mind. I do want to make sure that he goes before a jury or a judge, let them decide. But that has to start with charges and an arrest. So I want to be clear about that. But I do know the facts on the ground is that there was a black homeless man who said he was hungry and had no place to live and was angry. He was choked to death for 6, 10, or 15 minutes. That is what's happened. How can no one be charged? That man, Jordan Neely, is dead because he was black, homeless, and angry. That's why he was killed. We have had people try to hold folks for law enforcement many, many times. That's not what happened here. What happened here is someone held somebody in a chokehold and choked him to death. There has to be accountability for that. Even in death, we are failing Jordan Neely. Even in death, we continue to dehumanize him. Even in death, we are not giving him what he deserves. I'm so happy that the Reverend Sharpton and Nan are standing up to humanize this man and say you deserve to have dignity in life that you did not get. We will make sure that you get it in death. It makes no sense that we have leaders who can't even say, do not choke a man to death on the train. We have leaders who can't even say we do not want vigilantism in this city. If we can't even agree on those two things, where are we at in this city and in this state? I will end by saying, Reverend, I helped, thanks to the city council, we passed a law called a Statement of Bill of Rights for homeless persons. That just passed this past weekend, so we can let them know what their rights are. What we did not put on there was that you have a right not to be choked to death on the train because we didn't know we had to.
Give him a hand. Public advocate, Jumaane Williams. And let me say this. Let me say this as Jumaane finished his statement. Not only do we as an organization call on them to bring before this grand jury not only the choker, but the two that held. We need to have a real inquiry on why, when they brought the choker to the precinct, they didn't book him and let him go. Why did they let him go? I have to wonder, if I choke somebody on the train, would I be allowed to go in the precinct, give my story, and head home? I mean, somebody need to explain that to me. It reminds me, Jumaane saying, what is it reverse? Well, let me give you the reverse. Young man was headed to his daddy's house in Florida, had some iced tea and some chips. A wannabe security guard named George Zimmerman decided the young man was a thief or a burglar and shot and killed Trayvon Martin. They brought Zimmerman to the precinct. Zimmerman said, I thought he was a thief and a robber. I stood my ground and let him go. And we had to march and go over and over and over again to Sanford, Florida, to get Zimmerman even arrested. We've seen the let go by alibi before. We are not going to have that in New York. Who decided to let him go? Now, they're going to say, there go Sharpton again, there go all of y'all again, and they're right. That's what we do. Because they know once we get in it, we don't stop. That's why families that we fought for 30 years ago still with us. 45 years ago, they killed Arthur Miller. And Reverend Daughtry led that fight. He's still here in his 90s fighting. 45 years ago this week, we dealing with the death of Arthur Miller. I was young. I was maybe about 19 then. And Reverend Daughtry and Michael Hardy and them, my elders, led me. But you don't fight if you win, you fight till you win. Right now, we are preparing for the August 26th March on Washington around hate crimes, voting rights, and of course, our criminal justice reform, which includes policing. It's the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington with Dr. King, I Have a Dream. We're not having a commemoration, we're having a continuation. Struggles are about continuing every generation until you achieve the goal. We tell folk right now, you that are watching us on television, or go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net and sign up for the march. We have buses all over the country. I say that to say, and it hit me that people don't know the history. It hit me when Dr. Carson was speaking this morning. We thought that, and he's right, that when you saw people marching all over the world with George Floyd, that would end it. Or at least bring it down in terms of police brutality. Yet we turn around and see that it still happens. And as I was talking, many of you there at the convention, Andrew Young, who was Dr. King's executive director and went on to be the ambassador to the UN and a congressman, Andy Young was telling us, he said, you know, people don't understand something. I said, what is that, Ambassador Young? He said, one of the impetus for the March on Washington in '63 is, yes, we were coming around the issue of segregation and Jim Crow. And then as we were rallying, we were also raising voting rights. A man that was fighting for voting rights in Mississippi at that time pulled in his driveway some voter registration form, and the man killed him in his driveway. Wife and kids in the house. His name was Medgar Evers. Medgar Evers' assassination helped drive a lot of people to march with us in August. He was killed early summer. He said, but Al, don't stop there. After the March on Washington, 250,000 people in Washington. We thought Dr. King got up, I Have a Dream, speech went into history. We thought with that momentum it was over. He said it was just a few weeks later that they put the bombs in the church in Birmingham and killed those 4 girls. Don't think that one season is going to correct everything. Those 4 girls in Birmingham happened after the March on Washington. But they kept marching. And even though they killed the girls, and some were disheartened, and some of our super-duper militants of that time said, see, marching don't do nothing. They kept marching, and '64 they got the Civil Rights Act. If they'd given up, they never would have got the Civil Rights Act. Now, you got to remember, for all of y'all talking about, you know, I'm going to see Reverend if I can sacrifice and go to Washington. Let me remind you of something. That '64 Civil Rights Act, it made it a federal offense to deal with public accommodations, which meant in '63, they came to Washington in the back of buses. They came to Washington not being able to stop on the road and use a bathroom. They came to Washington not being able to pull over at any fast food joint and get served. It was against the law for blacks to go to certain restaurants. It was against the law for us to go to white men and white women's bathrooms. We put fried chicken, greasy fried chicken in paper bags. We rode and went on the side of the road to the bathroom to get to Washington to stand up. And here you are 60 years later being choked on subways being shot for ringing doorbells. And you talking about you gonna see if you can get there. Nobody putting you in the back of a bus. Nobody stopping you from a restaurant. You fly in first class with credit cards in your pocket and too lazy and ungrateful to stand up now. You got to take this to Washington. Same way we took it 60 years ago. Somebody said to me, Reverend Al, why y'all taking this to Biden and Harris and the Congress? Because we put them there. Why do you think we put them there? So I want us to go and be aware of that. And let me be real clear. They are losing the whole order in this country. Anytime you have seen the erosion of the credibility of the Supreme Court, I ain't never seen no mess like this in my life. First they come out with Clarence Thomas saying that he took some vacations paid by a guy named Harlan Crow, a big billionaire right-winger, flying all over the world, private jets. Now, a couple of our supporters gave us, for us to have private jets during the pandemic, they act like it's a scandal for me to fly private to do a funeral or to lead a march. But here he is skinning and laid back, weeks at a time, paid by a mega Republican who has friends and himself that would have cases in front of the Supreme Court. Conflict of interest. Never disclosed it. That was bad enough. Then you find out that his grandnephew, who he raised as his son, this same donor paid his tuition. Then you hear now that one of these right-wing activists paid some nonprofit, I think his name is Leonard Lowe or something. Leonard Leo, paid some nonprofit at some setup that ended up paying $100,000 to Mrs. Clarence Thomas. And put in writing, don't mention her name, you know how folk are. Yeah. We are supposed to have standards. And the defense is where there are no ethical standards for Supreme Court judges. Well, if there's no standards for those that are supreme, then how do you have standards for anybody else? To much is given, much is required. You're supposed to have more standards than anybody else. Am I right or wrong? We need to deal with the erosion of the credibility in Washington, which is also why this march is important, because our standards are gone. When you look at the fact that we are debating Biden's age rather than can we get older. Reverend Mal, do you think Biden can function at 80? Well, he's doing all right now. I'm trying to get to 80 myself. And I think if Trump get in, I might not get to 80.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
The way they cutting medical health stuff and all. I'm not being exaggerating here. Look how Trump handled COVID. Now, let me ask y'all a serious question. Now, y'all gonna say, oh, that's hyperbole, sharp, say me negative. Well, let me ask you this question. You got a pandemic, and you got a president telling y'all to shoot bleach. I mean, folk dying. And he's prescribing bleach. And y'all even entertaining putting him back in the White House. Hello. Just like a reporter called me this morning. Well, Red Mal, I know you said what you said about Jordan Neely, the homeless man, but are you aware he had been arrested? He had a record. I said, well, I don't have to be aware of that. Neither was the man choking him. But I said, but let me ask you a question. I said, let me ask you a question. Because he was from one of the right-wing papers, I said, records count when you have some mental problem, mother killed, certain ways that traumatize. I said, but then you are supporting a man that is indicted in Manhattan in a rape trial in the federal court, under investigation in Georgia, 2 investigations in Washington, and you want to make him the president of the United States again. I mean, since y'all like records, since you want to try to attach this boy's record, who had mental disorder, why don't every time you call Trump's name, you call the record where he's indicted and under investigation all over the country? Call the whole record. All I'm saying is play the game by one set of rules. If you got to roll out everything, you know, with right wing talk about me or Daughtry or Reverend Jackson, they go, 30 years ago, Sharpton did this. I didn't even do it, but they said, but they figure most of y'all wasn't around, so they can lie and tell y'all I did this. They accused Reverend Daughtry of something of a riot we wasn't even at. We got there a day later, but they done rewrote history, and they got folk mad at me about stuff. Both of us was living out in New Jersey. We didn't even know they was having a riot. But we gave 30 years ago, you know what he did. What did he do? Just like Biden. Biden this, Biden that. Well, my point is, let's deal with where we are right now. And that's why we got to deal with these issues as they come. One of the things, Dr. Carson, and let me say this, and I'll let you go. One of the things I've learned, and I've said to our young people in Huddle and National Action Network around the country, and that's why I was proud of Miles being with us, is don't just operate off of passion and emotion. Study so that as you move forward, you know what you're saying and know what you're doing. I've met many people on this journey that were good at just rallying up the crowd, but they had no content to change the policy and the laws. So when the rallies calmed down, there was nothing left toward justice. That's why we said the Eric Garner law became as important as all the marching. That's why we're not going to stop till we make George Floyd federal law. This is not about exciting moments. The news cycle going to change. News cycle, 2 or 3 days, you the hot item, till something else happens. young man went in Atlanta last week, shot up a place, and people already forgot about it. You couldn't call his name. Young man got shot ringing the wrong doorbell. You can't call his name. If you operate by news cycles, you will never get justice. You got to be long distance runners. And you got to stand up for permanent change. Otherwise, quit playing with our people. I told some ministers the other day, and this is what I want to get to and leave with you. I had to learn that when I was a boy preacher, that was cute. Put me on a box, get up and holler. I knew how Bishop Washington and them preached, and I get up there and could do it like they did. I was up there preaching. I'm 4 or 5 years old, wonder boy preacher. And I said, God brought me through trials and tribulations. At 5 years old, I didn't know what a trial or tribulation was. By the time I was 6, my hardest trial was getting through homework. But at some point, when I got 10, 11, 12, and started getting around William Augustus Jones and Herb Daughtry and others, and I didn't know what they was talking about, it made me start reading and studying. I was watching a preacher the other night, just all out of context, and I said to who was in a spot with me, he just preaching what he heard. He's not studied the scriptures. There's a difference between bird imitation preachers, performative gospels, just like you got performative activists. Hello. And what the guy said, and the reason it caught my eyes, because I used to say, he said Paul was riding to Damascus, and God slapped him up off the horse, and he went down Saul, and he came up Paul. That ain't the whole story. And he probably heard it wrong like I did, and I preached it like he did. But go into that story. Saul was going to Damascus looking to get those believers in Christ to turn them in to kill them. He was an agent of the state. Slow down now. Let's go through the whole story. He was an agent of the state to persecute the Christians. So all of y'all talking about, I don't know why Sharpton and all of them are into politics. It was state law that was prosecuting those that serve Jesus. You are not on your real study if you don't understand that Jesus broke laws. It was against the law to have gatherings on the Sabbath day. It was against the law to heal and tell the man to pick up his bed and walk on the Sabbath day. And those that followed the lawbreaker Jesus, Saul was after them. That's why when we stand up here today talking about the law, we are in the tradition of Christ. Now, as he was on his way on the road to Damascus, a light came. Didn't a hand come slap him? A light came that he could not see. Some translations say he fell off the horse, but all translations said the light blinded him. Does that not right? It's in the book, Bird. And the light blinded him. And the men with him had to bring him to Damascus. When he got into Damascus, God said to Ananias, who was a follower of Christ, I want you to go over to the house There's a man there, Saul of Tarsus. I've already asked him, why persecuteth me? If you don't think they were persecuting Christ and followers of Christ, then why would God ask Saul, why persecuteth me? Y'all want to quote out of context. He said, I already told him, Ananias, why prosecuteth me? I want you to go over to his house, to the house they're holding him, because he can't see. And he's praying, and I want you to touch him and heal him. Saul is going to turn after you heal him. Ananias, like some of y'all, say, wait a minute, I can't. God, what are you talking about? Go over and heal Saul. He's the one that's killing us. He's the one after us. Sometimes the one that you think is the one you can't confront is if you do what God say do. God will make your enemies your footstool. He'll prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies. So Ananias obeyed God. And he went over and he saw Saul. And he said to Saul, God sent me. And he touched him, and they said the things around his eyes opened up. And Saul went from Saul to Paul because God used Ananias to use himself to heal him. God needs some Ananiases around here. God needs some of y'all that'll go where you're not welcome. Some of y'all that'll go where they don't believe what you believe. But if God be for you, if God be for you, there'll be healing in your hand. If God be for you, there'll be healing in the land. Stand up anyhow. They're not going to believe you, but stand up anyhow. I come out the gym this morning. Y'all know I work out early in the morning. And they had on the screen, every channel, that they've coronated Charles from prince to king. And something I never knew, they said, what is more important, Reverend Stephen Marshall, than the coronation is the anointing. They first anoint him before they make him king. Problem some of y'all got is y'all want to be on the evening news. Y'all want to be a big name, but haven't got anointed yet. Y'all want the glory without the story. Y'all want to be up high without paying your dues. But I'm glad the reason I can go in the White House, even though I'm still marching, even while the reason I can deal with heads of state, even while I deal with grassroots, reason I can get billionaires to come to our conventions, and I grew up on welfare, is he anointed my head with oil till my cup runneth over. Charles ain't the only one been anointed. He walks with me. He talks with me. He tells me I'm his own. Y'all looking at Charles, but I know another king. He's the King of Kings. I decided that I'd turn the TV off and come up to the House of Justice and say, take me to the King. I don't have much to give, but take me to the King that'll lift up homeless people on subways. Take me to the King. He'll heal a broken heart. Take me to the King that'll bring help in the time of trouble. Take me to the King. Take me to the King. Take me to the King.
My heart is torn in pieces. It's my offering. Take me to the King. Truth is I'm tired. Options are few. I'm trying to pray. But where are you? I'm all churched out, hurt and abused. I can't say what's left to do. Truth is I'm weak, no strength to fight. No tears to cry, even if I try. But still my soul refuses to die. Oh, one touch will change my life.
Take me to the King. Don't have much to bring. My heart's torn in pieces. It's my offering. Lay me at the throne. Leave me there alone to gaze upon your glory and sing to you this song. Take me to the King.
Truth is it's time to stop playing these games. We need a word for the people's pain. So Lord, speak right now. Let it pour like rain. We're desperate. We're chasing after you.
Take me to the King. I don't have much to bring. My heart's torn in pieces. It's my offering. Lay me at the throne. Leave me there alone to gaze upon your glory and sing to you this song. Take me to the King. Take me to the King. Take me to the King. Yeah. Take me to the King. Take me to the King. Take me to the King. Oh, yeah. Take me to the King. Hallelujah.
Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. We want justice. We want freedom. Everybody's singing. I'm going to open the doors of the movement. There may be someone here today that never joined National Action Network. You hear us on radio, you see us on various TV shows, but never became a member of the organization. We need you to be a registered part of this Justice family. And if you're here in the auditorium, all you have to do is come down either side and fist bump with me and we'll sign you up right now. If you're listening on radio or watching on TV, all you got to do is call the toll-free number, 1-877-626-4651, 1-877-626-4651. But if you're here and want to join, just come on to me. Don't worry about who's looking. Everybody had to come down the same aisle, and we looked at them. Come on, come on. Everybody's singing, come on, come on. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. All right. Everybody's singing. Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. We want justice. We want freedom. We want justice. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. One last time, y'all. One last time, y'all. One last time, y'all. Everybody now. Everybody now. All right. We're going to raise our offering. I'll tell you on 9/11, we right at 11. I'm going to let y'all go in 10 minutes. I don't want nobody to leave. I want to make another announcement at the end. So I'll let y'all 11:10 if y'all just raise this money real quick. Y'all know I was going to raise the offering before you come, so don't act like you wasn't prepared. Quickly, quickly. I want everybody to give to the best of their ability. Next weekend is the first year anniversary of the 10 people killed in Buffalo a year ago. And on Mother's Day, next Sunday, they're having a year anniversary. I'm going to speak up there. I'll be here Saturday before I go up to Buffalo for that. And people don't even realize that was a year ago. And a lot of those families have not heard from anybody. We stayed in touch with the families. But I'll be here next Saturday morning, and then got to go by Astoria Manor. We're celebrating Kathy's birthday. and it's right near the airport, so I got to go on up to Buffalo. I want y'all to pray for those families. It's bad, and only people like Reverend Daughtry, Bishop Daughtry, and Michael Hardy, and others that have been in this a while understand it's very hard on a family when it happens. And then it's even equally hard when all of the cameras and the people gone and they left with this emptiness, this hurting their heart, and nobody cares no more. That's why 45 years later they're dealing with Arthur Miller. That's why every Mother's Day, every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, I call all of the victims that I've ever worked with, because they've got an empty seat at the table. Others have gone on to the next issue. Some folk went and got elected off of them, all of that. And that's fine if you're going to do something, but don't forget those that are suffering, that never asked to be activists. This family of Jordan, they didn't ask to be in this. People trying to dig up all in their family. They didn't call a PR firm to get in this. Just deal with the issue, leave them alone, and if you're not sincere, don't be jumping out there talking for folk you ain't talked to. I remember when I got stabbed in Bensonhurst leading the march for the racial killing of Yusuf Hawkins. I'm laying up in the hospital, and Negroes outside talking for me. That ain't talking to me. I'm up there wondering how deep I'm stabbed, and you talking about how mad you are. I never forget, we was on trial for something, one of our marches something, and I remember the courtrooms packed, Brooklyn criminal court, about 200 people in the courtroom. And we come in, the defendants, and they call my name. Now, we facing whatever time in jail for the demonstration. And they call Al Sharpton. I stood up, walked up. One lady hollered, "No justice, no peace," and call him a name. I said, "Hold it." I said, "When they call your name, you call the judge whatever you want. I'll get you a megaphone. But since they call Sharpton, you sit down and shut up and act like Sharpton acts." Some folk get very, very outraged at your expense. All right, let's raise our offering. I need to start with about 10 people. I need about 10.